Hey listeners, you're listening to the Midnight Readers podcast. Grab some tea, a midnight snack, and cuddle up in bed as we dive deep into today's most popular fantasy, sci-fi, and mysteries. We're your hosts. I'm Lily.
I'm Brittany.
And I'm Christy.
This season we'll be discussing the heart-pounding military fantasy that's part Hunger Games and part How to Train Your Dragon. That's right, grab your flight jacket, we're headed to Basgiath.
A dragon without its rider is a tragedy. A reader without their book, or this podcast, is dead. Welcome to the revolution. My best advice, don't die, and don't worry, we most likely won't need our allies.
In this episode, we're discussing Onyx Storm, chapters 28 through 33, where the gang visits the Isle of Dunne, Arik takes a starring role once again, and we discover some mind-blowing details that could definitely change the course of the book.
Before we get into it, this is your warning for major spoilers ahead. This includes potentially all Empyrean series materials. We're also avid fans of the Moss universe and might accidentally let spoilers slip for other popular romantasy book series as well. Sorry in advance, like the books, this podcast is rated R, so be warned.
Also, a friendly reminder to please like, subscribe, and follow. You can find us on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also join our growing community on Patreon for bonus content and more.
Last we left off, Violet and Quest Squad have made a deal with Devarelli. Now they're back at Basgiath planning their trip to their next destination, Unnbriel. It's been 8 days since Violet last saw Xaden, and he's yet to show up. So where is he? What's he up to? Hope he isn't channeling. But anyway, as soon as they get back, General fucking Atos sends them immediately back into class. No rest for you. So we start with Devera in Battle Brief. And I think it's funny that Quest Squad is kind of all just sitting there talking about, and not even just Quest Squad. You got Quest Squad plus Second Squad. And they're all, instead of paying attention in class, they're all like, okay, what's the next thing on the mission?
Yeah. I mean, if I were them, I would have a really hard time focusing on class.
Same. We do learn that the Signisan Flyers have now finally joined us, and that the Venin are headed south towards Krovla, where they have been kind of leaving that area alone. But a lot of people think it's kind of interesting and sus that the Signisan Flyers are only just now joining us.
I didn't really consider it suspicious. Why would they think it's suspicious?
There's some thought that maybe they are Venin.
Interesting. That they took a while to get there because they're not actually the Flyers?
Or that their Flyers turned Venin. But, I mean, it's been probably, I think, a month since the deal was made. How long does it?
The Flyers take a really long time, though.
They do, but not a month.
Well, logistically, getting your life together to go somewhere else could also.
Yeah.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
I don't subscribe to this theory. I just thought it was interesting to note that it took them a really long time to get there. And we do get one of the best lines, one of Rebecca Yaros's favorite lines, when Riddick notices a third-year flyer who is kind of hot. Even Violet notes that he's not bad looking. And he...
Like, now who could this possibly be?
And he responds, I'm sorry, I don't fuck second years. And
He said, well, that's a good thing I fuck like a third year.
But that is Rebecca Yaros's favorite line. She's like, I knew that line from the beginning.
She has Riddick planned out in her head so clearly.
Good thing.
Is this where Marin asked him about his confidence?
Yes.
I love his response. I feel like half this book is so self-help that it's like, because he says, survive the gauntlet. After that, you're well aware one rejection isn't going to kill you.
Yeah.
How perfect is that?
Yeah. It's good advice. I mean, if I had the confidence of Riddick, I'd be hitting on everybody too. But I mean, not to pull it back a little bit, but I hate to get too into this chapter before we even talk about what could Cortland possibly have wanted to trade with her at the end of the last chapter. We didn't discuss at the end of the last chapter that right as it's ending, Violet's making that deal with Cortland, and he's like, I actually have another deal for you if you're listening. And she's like, I'm listening. What is that?
It is implied by Kat that she told them that he wanted them as weapons, her and Xaden. But is that the truth?
I don't know.
Mm-mm.
I think it's...
Yeah, I couldn't let us go on without that, or even the epigraph at the beginning of this chapter. It's the first time we see Asher Daxton, which is obviously, it's immediately you go, Daxton, as in Colonel Daxton, Guide to Excelling in the Scribe Quadrant.
But is that Asher her dad? Her dad?
Yeah,
that's what
the
I
epigraph
think.
reads, there are times I look at Parapet at the very act of threshing and marvel that dragons have not been to Unnbriel. What we call treacherous is their idea of primary school. So basically, he's like, this is child's play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I think those aisles are not what they seem.
But yes, it has been confirmed that Colonel Daxton is, from Colonel Daxton's Guide to Excelling in the Scribe Quadrant, is a relative of Violet, and that second Lieutenant Asher Daxton is her father.
Oh my god. So did he take Lilith's last name?
He did.
That's crazy. And also, why? Why would he have done that? Is there a reason for that, or is it just like a custom?
I think it's, you can take whoever's name you want, or I wouldn't be surprised if there's some hyphenated thing. I know.
Yeah.
Some of the aristocracy goes with the name. So if Halden were to marry, they'd have to go with Tari. Or if Xaden were to marry, they would need to go with Ryerson. But maybe Sorrengail was the better known, more
nobility.
respected name. He's a second lieutenant here, so he had just graduated the Scribe Quadrant.
Right.
Or is it to hide?
See, I was like, is there a reason behind it? Or is
it's
a custom? I was wondering.
And I'll talk about it later, about mine wrapping into this, because it's a big old thing later once we get to, the land of the Silverhairs. So I will do it later, but remind me to wrap it into this.
Okay. We'll bring it back. Okay. Yeah. I had to bring that up because I was like, hold on. This is crazy to me. They just throw it in there.
On this, in the notes, I was like, first of all, how the hell did he manage to travel to Dunne, an isle that Navarre hasn't been in centuries?
You mean Unnbriel?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Unnbriel.
Yeah.
According to common belief, just after graduating the Scribe Quadrant. Like, literally just after.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
The third question I had, other than, his name, was, or actually it wasn't a question, it was just a statement. It said, so what they go through in the Writer's Quadrant is literally child's play to the Umbriel's people. I guess I'm not the only one who thinks an 18-inch parapet isn't that bad.
Interesting.
I knew you were one of the evil people.
Yeah.
They don't say that the people of Unnbriel are evil.
No, they said they were hard asses and that the parapet is easy in comparison.
Yes.
Not easy, just easy in comparison.
I will say, in this section, have y'all noticed, I think you mentioned it last episode, but Kat is like a completely different person.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is. Very different.
And I love how protective of Violet she is.
Yeah. In Battle Brief, when she's asked questions that make her uncomfortable, Kat jumps in and is like, of all the places,
and
she made us go to the bookstore and takes that attention away from Violet and puts it on herself.
Right.
Yeah. And then when they do the, when she was like, fuck the rules, when Violet said fuck the rules, and she immediately stepped in and put the silencing thing over them.
She did it so fast, too. She was like, boom, silencing rune. And I was like, okay, I love her.
Speaking of runes,
she was so fast.
They mentioned a communication rune in the last section. And I was like, Kat's going to invent this.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. The way she went into protection mode immediately, I know she is already thinking about that. I bet she is.
I really like Kat in this section. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that she has finally moved on from Xaden, even though she wants the power. She's stopped going after Xaden, and she is kind of getting to know Traeger a little bit.
Just a little.
Massaging his shoulders and going on hunting trips with him. And was there a mouth-shaped bruise on his neck in Hedotus?
He's been trying to handle that for a while, so sounds like he won that battle.
Yeah. And something that we didn't talk about last episode was in the bookstore, Narelle made it very clear that the books were meant for Violet alone. And Mira kind of got upset about it.
She seems to take it a little bit personally.
Yes. Even though in his note to Violet, Asher says, trust only your sister.
Yeah, I think it's understandable, for Mira to feel like, I don't know, maybe she feels like inferior, or maybe she feels like she's not enough to read it, or she wasn't special enough. I would feel the same way for
especially coming from your dad.
Same.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, this very special, there's 6 books only written for Violet, and then only Violet can look at them, and I would feel very I don't know, I would feel a little hurt if I were Mira.
Same. And I'm not faulting her for it, but she does start acting differently towards Violet. And we do find here that she has taken personal leave for the first time in her life.
Now, I will say my first reaction was to assume that her break, or her personal time, is not really a break. Because knowing Mira, I just have a feeling that her personal time also has a reason behind it.
Drake.
Or something. It could be Drake.
You think they went on a date or something?
I think they went on more than a
Drake.
date. I think they went on a sexy picnic and she got herself a bracelet.
Oh my gosh. I think it was to visit Grandma, and it has something to do with the fact that...
Oh yeah, damn it.
Narelle said that...
You're killing sexy time with Grandma.
I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry. I wish it were Drake in my mind.
I don't think we're there with them two yet.
Yeah, but I think that she heard what Narelle said about her being Lilith's daughter, and I think she wanted to go talk to somebody about it, or maybe she has something in her mind that we don't know about.
Yes.
She wanted to figure something out.
Yes.
That was something we also didn't discuss, was Narelle kind of implied that Asher raised Violet and Lilith raised Mira, and what legacy does Mira have?
Because Mira is Lilith's daughter and Violet is not.
In a lot of ways.
Oh, no. I meant for real.
I know what you meant. I read your notes. I don't know if I'm convinced of that yet, but I'm going to hear you out when we get there.
Okay, well, let's talk about the worst professor at Beskaya, Carr.
You might be interested to know that Rachel also pushed back on him being the worst professor.
Who does she think is the worst?
No, I think she was just saying, I don't know if he's really that bad. It's just his way of teaching, or the way that he sees her power.
Anyway, well, if he's not the worst professor, then who is he? Or who is?
I don't know. I was surprised that she said that, but she was basically saying, I don't know if Carr necessarily is setting out to be evil, but more like he just sees her as an object, or he sees her for... And I remember being like, yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, if he were a teacher at Zodiac Academy, I could see that. I could see his teaching method being that's just how they do things. And I mean, I get it. At Basgiath, it was accepted, but it's no longer accepted right now. No longer accepted.
Yeah.
And for him,
Sure.
for somebody to try to teach a new way and him to tell Garrick, he said, having powerful friends does not make you a good instructor. And I was like,
Right.
first of all, fuck off. Garrick is powerful in his own right, and you just implied that he's just a hanger-on who's just a simple wind wielder who isn't very powerful. And first of all, he's one of the most powerful wind wielders. And yes, I know Carr doesn't know he has a second signet, but who taught himself how to use that second signet? Because they certainly didn't get a professor to teach them that. Xaden certainly didn't get a professor to teach him how to use his intrinsic gift.
I didn't mean for us to go down this
I
route.
did. I did. I wrote it in the notes.
I did not mean for us to go down this route.
I wrote it in the notes. I had a whole rant about Carr in the notes.
So for that part, though, because when he kills that second year, did I read it wrong, or did it seem like she was shocked? Like she didn't realize she was Venom?
It does seem that way in the book to me.
I think she got scared and she drew for the first time, and that might have shocked her that she did it, that it happened. She maybe didn't mean to, but I think her terror sent her into doing it.
Okay.
So are we supposed to think that it's possible to do by accident that easily? I mean, I guess Xaden did. But I thought that he did it because he was dying.
Xaden did it to protect Violet. He did his with intention. And
Right.
I think she did it with intention, sort of, like this whole, oh God, I need something to help me survive. And she pulled and then was like, oh, what the fuck?
But that's crazy, though. If it's that easy to become Venom, that means you just have to scare the shit out of somebody in order for them to. That just doesn't seem balanced. Like magic wise, that doesn't seem like a balance. You should be drawing with intention of taking power to become Venom.
Well, I mean, again, I think there is intention there to take power.
Well,
I just
from fear,
think
though, not from greed.
Xaden didn't take it out of greed.
Right.
He took it out of fear. But if he hadn't have taken it, then the supposed maven might have killed him.
Well, I know, but he made the choice to do that, even though it wasn't out of greed. But for her, she was just terrified, and it wasn't. I don't know. It seemed like an odd way.
You make decisions out of fear all the time, or people do, not you. And
I do
then you
all
have
the
to
time.
live with the consequences. Then you have to live with the consequences of what your choice was.
I get what you're saying, Christy. I think it does seem like it's almost too easy to do, especially since we're supposed to think that it's this horrible choice that you would make. It seems a little bit casual in this scene, like in terms of like that hard choice that you would make.
Well, think of it.
I get what you're saying.
Think of it like addiction. So, say venin is drugs, and sometimes you make the decision just to make yourself feel better. Sometimes you do it for money. Sometimes.
Okay, but so you're saying she was venin before, and
I'm saying if she was venin before, I think Xaden would have sensed her.
But that means that every person that they were attacking in those villages would have been venin, because they all would have been afraid. It just doesn't.
Jack said that it's very easy for a rider or a flyer to sense the power because they're already acquainted with it. Infantry and people who don't already have magic, it's not as easy for them.
I don't know.
It's still wild.
It still seems too easy.
It's crazy. And a lot of people were asking, like, why didn't they ever train with their signets or spar with their signets before this? And maybe this is why, because some people's signets scare the shit out of other people. And I mean, if somebody blew fire at me, I'd be scared, especially if I didn't have a signet that could counter it.
It's just you think we would have seen it by now.
Yeah, and you would feel like a lot more of the riders would end up venin.
Yeah.
It's, according to Rebecca Yarros, it is mostly, or most of the time, the people who become venin are people who feel like they weren't given enough power.
Well, and I'd also like to know why somebody didn't just annihilate Carr from the beginning. Like, why are they listening to him at all?
I don't know. I really dislike him. I want him to suffer. And I wrote in the notes every time I mentioned Carr, I was like, I hope he dies. I hope he dies. I don't like him. Especially with his like, if she gets a scar, that'll just teach her how to, do better next time. No.
Yeah, I was like, can somebody teach him how to do better next time?
Yeah, because he hasn't learned a fucking thing about teaching.
I mean, you've got Sloane who refuses to be taught by him, not because he's an asshole, but because, she doesn't want to use her gift. But also, you've got Violet who refuses to be taught by him.
Because he sucks.
And
for good reason.
When he was teaching her, what was he teaching her? Quantity over quality. Just, strike as many times as possible. It doesn't matter if you can aim, because that's real helpful.
He's a dumbass.
Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of Sloane, when Violet finds out that she is not training her signet, she kind of
is pretty upset about it.
She kind of questions her about it, and there have been a lot of people who've pointed out the similarities between Violet's first year and Sloane's first year. Sloane has this really powerful gift that the first time she really kind of used it with intention,
it scared her.
Killed somebody. And so now she's like terrified to use it. Violet had Xaden to kind of talk her through this, but Sloane, not so much. Sloane also went into the Writer's Quadrant knowing that her brother died, and it was because of her wing leader. And while Violet went into the Writer's Quadrant, knew that thought her brother died, it wasn't necessarily because of Xaden, but because of Xaden's dad. And we have these quotes here where she says, "We're trying to help," Sloane argues, her cheeks flushing a second before her narrow gaze drops away from Dane. Dane, about Liam. "His death will always be on my head. Yours will not. I don't coddle first years anymore, so train your signet." Sloane, "Asshole," she whispers, and the flush in her cheek deepens. I lift my brow and at the look she shoots him, mostly because I can't tell if she wants to stab him in his seat or fuck, Garrick mutters. That is brilliant. Because we know she was going to say, I can't tell if she wants to stab him or fuck him. And yet Garrick says it first.
But it's very, like you said, it's very similar to Violet's interactions with Xaden.
Yeah. So I'm seeing a sort of enemies to lovers relationship with Sloane and Dane in the future.
I don't know. That seems a little sistery, though. Like, that's...
What?
For what? Sloane and Dane?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You think that's a little incesty?
Why incesty?
I mean, technically, it would be fine, but I don't know.
Okay. I don't really think that, but...
I'll be honest, I'm all here for the Sloane and Dane train.
And I could totally change my mind.
Them interact a little more. I don't know. I want to see them interact a little bit more. I don't get the excitement yet. I'm not against it. I'm just not I'm not excited about it yet.
Speaking of feelings, this is something I think I started feeling in Iron Flame when I first read it. I had the thought and then I kind of dismissed it. And then when I first read Onyx Storm, I kind of started feeling it again. I am not feeling it on the second read, but
okay.
I just had this thought that Bodhi has feelings for Violet.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't think it was feelings, but I did think that their interactions feel a little flirty.
I mean,
I don't know. I also thought that's a crazy thought. I was like, I'm definitely reading too much into that.
I remember thinking it during my first read. I'm not feeling it so much on the second read, but I wanted to bring it up because I remember distinctly having this feeling.
And with our discussion about betrayals, you're like, maybe. I don't know. I personally don't think it's the case.
I don't think so either.
Just off of vibes, I feel like Bodhi's a good guy, But I remember reading it and feeling like this is a little flirty feeling. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but
I mean,
when she's like, "Hey, Bodhi," and he's like, "Hey, Violet,"
and let me just say,
kind of flirty fun.
Let me just remind you of Bodhi going, yeah, he didn't feel about anybody like this. That includes Catriona. Oh, please don't mention that to my cousin that you're fucking that I just threw out there for you.
I don't know. I can't see him being a manipulative type. I don't know.
And Xaden being like, you're wearing Bodhi's jacket?
Nah, I feel like we're reaching. now.
No, I
don't know.
I agree. Like, I don't think that Bodhi has a thing. But I just remember feeling that way when I first read it.
But I understand why you may have felt that. Because I once or twice was like, I kind of like him because he's a little flirty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he's playful.
I do also have to say that I love that both you and I, Lily, wrote Cat and Traeger sitting in a tree.
Wait, we both wrote that? Oh my god. Wait, I didn't see yours.
It's right above the Sloane in chapter 28.
Very nice. Cat and Traeger sitting in a tree.
Okay. So last time we also talked about some weird Dark Wielder books. So I just really wanted to quickly mention when she's talking to this group, they all have all these books that they're reading. Rhee is doing weather patterns, and Bodhi is reading fables about the venom, which is funny because she's like, is there some cure about how love or good deeds or dancing naked under a full moon if you drink this special venom? I would love to see Xaden dance naked under a full moon. Just saying. Not really, actually.
Maybe it could cure something. Also, I really missed Rhiannon in this section. I missed her. I was like, oh man, she can't be at the gang on the squad. You know, I'm sad.
Yeah. But they also mention that while Quinn leans over her shoulder reading a volume Queen Mariah sent on venom and their medicinal uses.
Interesting. I don't think I caught that.
So the venom are like herbs?
I saw or I heard somebody compare it to maybe like snake venom.
Hold on. I'm going to see if I can find this in the book. Yeah. Do we have a page for that?
I didn't write a page, but it's in the chapter, the first chapter, 28, and it's after Garrick chastised Imogen for pushing her too hard.
Yeah, which I was like, good for Imogen for standing up for Violet and being like, if she reaches a boundary, then she'll tell me. I like that about Imogen. We can go on. I'm just gonna look as we talk.
Well, I just thought it was interesting. Again, who's doing these experiments on the venom, and are they cutting off pieces of them and mixing them into a salve?
Melgren.
Like,
yeah.
I see it. Okay, it says, I glance over my shoulder to see her twirling her forefinger, suggesting Garrick turn back around, while Quinn leans over her shoulder, reading a volume Queen Mariah sent on venom and their medicinal uses. What the hell?
Somebody likened it to snake venom. So, like, that can cure some things. I can't remember the list. But
okay, we joked about this, but what if venom goo or spinal something, or like Attack on Titan spinal juices, or like blood, or I don't know, venom saliva is what makes that serum.
Let's do goo.
Ew, yeah, oh my god, that would be gross.
Venom goo all over again.
You get splattered with goo and it helps you.
What's wrong with you? Christy is so gross.
But, I mean, think about it.
Splattered with goo.
If it's not some bodily fluid, then it's got to be like, oh, I just cut off the venom's finger and just smashed it into meat. And
like a piece of aloe. You rub it all over you. You get the finger and you just, rub it.
I grinded their bones into powder. But these are people. I know that venom are the bad guy, but they're still people. And that's gross.
That's nasty.
I don't want to put other people on me.
This isn't a Soylent Green situation. I don't.
Maybe they grow back though. Maybe it regoos. Grows back
like a lizard tail.
Yeah. Except for grosser.
Ew.
Oh my god.
Oh. I think we should move on. But that's a great catch, honestly. Because what the hell?
I will also say that they did discuss in Battle Brief the fact, not the possibility, but the fact that somebody is spying on them. Somebody finally said it out loud.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, as you were saying, Violet says, "Hey, Bodhi." And Bodhi says, "Hey, Violet." She's like, "What's your second signet?" And he says, "I don't have one." Thoughts?
Liar.
In the way that Xaden doesn't have one. That's what he says.
He does. And that has, of course, driven the fandom crazy.
Yeah, I definitely think he's got another signet.
Although Rebecca Yarros has confirmed that Violet is the only human who knows of Xaden's second signet.
Yeah, I don't trust her for as far as I could throw her, so I'm not
How
taking
small
that.
is she?
Not small enough.
There are people who have pointed out that Bodhi's signet, which is counteracting signets, wouldn't that mean that he would have to sense other people's signets in order to counteract it?
Sounds
Yep.
about right.
So could he maybe not know about Xaden's second signet, but suspect?
Could he know without knowing?
know without knowing?
Probably.
But also, I wouldn't take this statement at face value either, because of what if he's an intrinsic too and is trying to keep it secret?
Oh, that'd be crazy.
Or what
did.
if he's the sibling that betrays and he does know?
But he doesn't have a sibling.
He does. Isn't he considers him like his adopted brother though, doesn't he? I know he's like his cousin or something, but
Foster brother was Liam.
foster brother.
He's never referred to Bodhi as anything other than his cousin.
His cousin. Okay.
But moving on, we do have our first years there, and we know that Baylor has Farsight, Evelyn is a fire wielder, Sloane is a siphon, and so that leaves Lynx and Auric without signets, or without known signets.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts and guesses on what they may be?
I suspect Auric's signet is going to be something very useful. I just suspect. So I wonder if it could be like the far hearing, or if it's future telling, or something like that, like we had discussed it prior. I have a feeling it could be something very useful.
And Lynx?
Not a clue.
What about you, Christy?
Honestly, I have no guesses. I mean, I could throw shit out, but not one of them would be an educated guess.
I could see Lynx being the one that can hear far distances. I think there was something that made me think that from the previous chapters. Maybe because we were discussing it. I don't know.
I will say in this, Auric does come to Violet and asks some questions. And he says, did he jeopardize your mission, meaning Halden? And I had a bit of a rant because
Okay.
Violet says no, because the mission was successful. And I was like, no, just because the mission was successful doesn't mean he didn't jeopardize it. You fixed his fuck up, but it doesn't.
I think Auric knows that.
I think Violet's
But
just
yeah.
low drama. She's just like, whatever, gotten past it.
She's like, it's in the past. I
Yeah.
don't want to talk about
Hold
that's
the
why I
bitch
like her.
accountable.
Yeah.
Personally, I think she said it because she knows that Auric is considering going on this, saying, I'll do it. And
Yeah, maybe.
she's trying to ease his fears so that he doesn't feel responsible.
I mean, I don't blame her for trying to keep him from going, But, yeah.
All right. I know. Anyway, we're off to Dunne. Or not Dunne. We're off to Unnbriel here now, and they're getting ready to go. And who shows up but Auric? And I am going to say this. I do think, as a suggestion, that y'all pay close attention to Auric's actions and words.
Oh, interesting. So we should already know his signet? Are you going to pull a Yaros and be like, you should already know?
I think you should pay close attention to his actions and words.
I will keep that in mind. I may even reread the section. I was thrilled that he wanted to go.
Me too.
And that they kicked Halden's ass out of here. I was like, hell yeah. Also, I think it's badass that his dragon is a blue clubtail. I think that bodes well.
Yes. And what's wonderful also is that Mulvik, which is the name of his dragon, its name means king in Arabic.
Ooh, I love that. I feel like she takes so many inspirations from the Iberian Peninsula, like Mediterranean area. Yeah. I love that.
All right. Where are we?
She mentions in this section that some of the runes work, which we kind of already addressed, but I think it is important to note here that she mentions it because we talked about the cat coming up with a communication rune.
Yes, but it's also important to note that she is given a rune. We're each supplied with a handful of multicolored quartz disc to test. I'm grateful to not be sunburned, though I can't tell if it's the amethyst disc or the same rune on one of the daggers Xaden gave me last year. So we learn, we learn potentially that one of the runes on the daggers is implied to be sunburn protection.
I feel like I missed everything in this section. I'm so
There was
blown.
so much. Trust me, I missed it on my first read. But for me, I was like, is Xaden really going to waste one of his 12 runes on a sunburn protection rune?
Yeah, that was my thought too.
Or is it overall protection? Or is it there's a rune on each side of the dagger? And so there's a 24? Can you put you put 2 runes on one dagger?
I think Violet is bad at runes, and so she could be mistaken.
That is a good point. Yes. But one of my favorite quotes here is when Halden, one of my favorite scenes here is when Onyx steps out and Halden's jaw hits the ground and he's like, you've let us look for you in all these brothels and stuff. And Onyx
brothels, whorehouses. And he was like,
that's where you would go, not me.
Yeah. Nice try, buddy.
And Mira was like, he could have just let you think he was dead.
Mira has not let that go.
No, she hasn't.
I mean, so fair, though. Okay,
right.
So Mira is wearing a black tourmaline bracelet, and my first thought immediately was that tourmaline, and sometimes obsidian, black stones tend to be used for protection, at least in the quote-unquote properties of, like, the crystal girlies. So I'm wondering if Yaros was using it for that, if maybe the tourmaline is meant to boost her signet, because she wields wards, or she's like, that's part of her signet. So I wonder if the tourmaline boosts her signet or helps it in some way.
Or Drake gave her the bracelet to protect her.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So there are several theories about this bracelet online. One of them is from a Reddit user. I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but it's ERETREYAH. And she says there is something about the knotwork that holds the metallic beads, tickles the back of my brain, and I swear I can smell parchment. A lot of people think that this is a memory, but she or he thinks that the knots are Tyrish runes, and that we do know that somebody's signet is they can make big things small and small things big, that there is a hidden parchment in this bracelet.
And we've already know that Mira knows someone who can do that because tiny scales were made small. A TikTok user, Hannah Michelle, she said that she believes the bracelet can protect the wearer from energy fields, aka Violet. So, that's so no.
So,
don't know. I don't want her to be the betrayer. No.
We have Felix here saying that she we have Felix here saying that she is she has the most devastating signet on the continent, but she knows nothing about energy fields, and that she is the greatest energy field of all. And black tourmaline is known to kind of protect from bad energy. Specifically from electromagnetic radiation, which comes off of lightning.
What?
That's according to this theory.
I have never heard that about black tourmaline.
It says,
Googling
when
now.
black tourmaline comes into contact with EMFs, which are electromagnetic fields, it creates a protective field around itself that absorbs and neutralizes the harmful waves. In this way, it acts as a shield, protecting the person wearing it from the dangers of electromagnetic radiation, aka lightning, aka violet. That was their theory, and that all came from, again, this TikTok user, Hannah Michelle.
I was with her until we got to the electromagnetic radiation.
Maybe they think that violet will turn venom.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of ways it could go, and I don't know if that's one. I really hope that she's not trying to protect herself from Violet. But after that whole thing about her being concerned about taking it personally with Asher and the books and whatever, I could see why someone would think that, but I think Mira's better than that.
Well, we don't know why either. I mean, what if she went to see her grandmother? What if her grandmother told her things about Violet's background, about her background, the fact that Violet is not her real sister, and the potential is there.
Think that's true.
And that maybe there is some sort of level of protection. Maybe the grandmother actually gave her the bracelet. I don't know. But I think there's something else we're missing. I don't think she's just going to betray her.
I do think that the grandmother may have had something to do with it. But yeah, I don't know.
Speaking of grandmother Niara, I'm assuming that she is Asher's mother, that she might be the Colonel Daxton of written books.
Oh, maybe, possibly.
But Violet asks Mira about why their family stopped communicating with each other, and she refuses to tell her, despite the fact that Mira knows that she can't just, up and go visit her grandma like she can. Y'all have any thoughts and theories on this?
No, I don't.
What caused this rift?
I don't know. I think Mira is trying to find her way. I think that Lilith has died. I think that she feels betrayed by Brennan. I think that she is learning all of these things about Violet and maybe feels like she's been in the dark about a lot of things, and maybe that is enough reason for her to seek counsel somewhere that isn't, within Violet or within her friends. I think she's unsure about where to go forward, especially after she sees Violet thriving with all the things that Asher has left for her. And so I wonder if Mira is just looking for, answers that she doesn't have.
It's a good thought. And we'll have to hope we learn more about that later. On the way to Unnbriel, Violet says that she has nothing to do for 8 hours, so Taryn recites his lineage for 8 fucking hours.
That sounds god-awful.
It does. For 8 hours. And he starts from the very first and ends at the first dragon to ever bond a human, or, first black dragon to ever bond a human, which is Thoreau. And so I'm assuming that Thoreau is a first 6 dragon, which is the first time we potentially get a name for a dragon of the first 6. I wonder whose dragon he or she was. But then she says he just stops. It's like, as when the humans got involved, it's no longer important.
I think that's crap. I think he couldn't say more, or didn't want to say more. I think he's Lyra's, is it, whatever. Whichever, Lil L, Big L. So Big L. I think it was Big L's dragon. I can't remember these names.
It was Lyra.
Okay.
Right.
Lyra. Okay. I do think it's funny. I mean, if she made the wardstone at Erasia, she might have been because Thoreau was her dragon.
Yeah.
But I wonder.
And that's part of his lineage, and then that means Violet would have been part of her lineage, and then...
Well, that's just the whole black dragon lineage.
Okay.
I will say this, as far as that goes, because I know we've talked about it in the past, but Rebecca Yara says that no writer has had more than 2 signets and never will.
Oh, no. I'm not talking about the signets, but I think the lineage. I think as far as like the first 6 and the 6 coming now, or 7.
I do think it's interesting that he keeps repeating his lineage like it's important.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah, like he keeps saying it to
does
her.
she need to know? I mean, I know it's kind of shown as him being pompous and, proud of his lineage and whatnot. But to put it in the book over and over, because this is, I think, the second time it's mentioned.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
And now he's gone further and told her even more. And it's like he's waiting for her to say something.
like there's something important in there.
Something he can't tell her.
Yeah.
Dragon secrets.
Yeah. I feel like it's probably something that the Empyrean's like, you can't tell her, but he's like trying to lead her there.
Oh, yeah.
You
I
know?
didn't think about that aspect, that he's kept from saying too much. Oh, okay. It's interesting.
All right. Let's talk about Unnbriel real quick as an island. I think it's rocky beaches and a jungle. And everything is also made out of stone. And they have cross bolts that swivel, unlike Deverelli. And they use themselves as bait to get an audience with the queen to do a challenge.
This might be nothing, but right before they use themselves as bait, when she's talking to Mira and they're having that awkward conversation, she says, did Grandma Niara say how he found time to study things like the migratory patterns of terns and eris birds, or blah, blah, blah. He spends 3 pages talking about companion planting, Breeson root, and Kellenweek, then goes off about Zacchea berries and how if the birds migrate to Hedotus too late, they're overripe and the flock drops dead and their little yellow beaks stained blue. That is the weirdest passage.
I also
That is the weirdest
wrote
passage.
that down and I was like, yes, Grandma, why is this important?
Yeah, because, okay, first of all, companion planting Breeson root and Kellenweek. What could those herbs be? What do we need to know about them? You already pointed out the Phalaronia moths. And then if the birds migrate to Hedotus too late, they're overripe, the flock drops dead, and their little yellow beaks stained blue. That is the most ominous way to describe those birds dying from being poisoned.
It's very venom-y.
I think that is, yes. And it's blue. They're stained blue. And we talked about how the venom have blue robes. And who else has blue robes?
Could the companion herbs work against the venom?
I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe those freaking, whatever those Zacchea berries are.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's something going on here that is not being mentioned that, she's overlooking. I just thought it was so weird. And the Unnbriel people wear blue robes when they serve Dunne.
They do.
It just is a lot of things lining up that I don't understand.
And for her, for grandmother to know a lot about it too is...
Do you remember when I said that there was a major color theory?
Silver?
Yeah.
I'm going to kind of go into it now a little bit. Although I probably should wait until all the aisles. But anyway, so there is the theory that the gods and the dragons kind of match up. And so each dragon represents a different god. And so for the blue dragon, that would represent Dunne.
Right.
And the black dragon would represent Malik.
Right. Orange would be who?
Zanal.
And everything's based on luck
and
or
think
chance.
about it, the orange dragons are known for being chaos. They're being known for being unpredictable. Sense. The blue dragons,
Hedotus
are
oh my gosh.
Hedon.
Hedotus.
Hedotus is the island. Hedon is the god. So the green dragons are known for being intelligent and wise. And the blue dragons known for being cunning. The black dragons known for cunning. Blue dragons known for ruthlessness.
And the iridescent.
Well, there's 7 dragons and only 6 gods, so...
I don't know, yeah.
Right now, the prevailing theory is that the brown dragon represents Amari.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. But the iridescent does throw a wrench in that.
But it is interesting that the Dunne people wear blue robes.
Yeah. Well, the venom...
wear purple. and maroon.
I was about to say, they have purple and maroon, and that's the only color missing from the dragons.
Although when she first describes Andarna, she says that she's a black, so black that's almost purple.
Right. Interesting.
So keep that in mind as we read the next couple of sections.
I will.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, back to them using themselves as bait. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, they do, like, these camouflaged warriors on horseback come, and he has an emblem of crossed swords with a horseshoe. I'm not sure why the horseshoe.
He's cavalry, maybe?
Yeah, that's a good guess. Probably right. And then they go to the temple, which is the largest temple that they've ever seen. And there's the emblem of Dunne, which is similar to the one that they have at home. And I'm like, what's so different about it? Because they're like, it's crossed swords with the claw holding it in the middle.
Yeah.
And of course, we don't know what kind of claw is, but we assume dragon. I'm assuming everybody assumes dragon. And I wonder what the difference is between, is it just the claw at home? Or is it the swords? Or what? But Violet immediately notices that all the priests and priestesses or whatever, I don't know if there's men. I assume there's men. But they all have silver hair. Not gray, not white.
Yeah, they do.
Silver.
Interesting.
And there's this one 10-year-old girl who has her hair in a braid that is tipped silver.
Right.
Just
also,
like hers.
Dunne has braided hair like Violet's, and I thought that was interesting that it mirrors her.
Yeah, so I feel like Violet is adopted in some way, shape, or form, that she is not actually Lilith, and that maybe even her dad isn't her dad, and she came from this silver hair isle. I even was curious if she was maybe Marlis's kid somehow, some way. Marlise. Okay, Marlise. Marlis. Oh, I like Marlis, though. Okay, Marlise.
I thought it was Marlis, too, because I was reading it at that point.
Yeah. And there's just so much silver all over the aisles. I don't know. Maybe he whisked her away from danger, or he stole her, although I don't think that's the case. I think it would have somehow been with their consent. And then either he made Lilith think that she was pregnant, maybe gave her some sort of feeling like she went through that, or Lilith went along with it and just told those stories. Maybe she told them she was sick, so she had to be kept away so they didn't see she wasn't pregnant. I don't know, because the dedication, the return to the temple, the things that Marley says to her, it just feels like that's where she's from, and that somehow she is not actually, and that's what I was saying about Mira. Maybe she found out that she wasn't actually her sister, like her blood sister.
Okay, I don't think that's the case. My grand theory is that Lilith and Asher, for some reason, wanted to dedicate her to Dunne. I don't know what their reasoning was. Maybe it's because she was born frail. Maybe it's because once they realized that she had an illness, that they were like, oh, we can't devote her to Dunne, and they took her out of the dedication. But I think that they chose to dedicate her to Dunne. We know that Asher made a trip to the Isles early on in his life, and that there's a possibility that he could have been to Unnbriel. Well, we know he went to Unnbriel because he talks about it. I think that they started dedicating her and then made a decision to take her out of the dedication for whatever reason. Because also thinking about the way that they talk about her in the first few books in Fourth Wing, where Lilith is like, she can't go into the scribe quadrant or whatever. I wonder if it has to do with all of that. And so that's my grand theory. I don't have all the pieces, but I think they intended for her to be dedicated and then took her out, which is why only the bottom of her hair is silver, which is kind of implied in the chapter where they're like, yeah, some children don't finish, which is why the priestess says to Violet, you never finished your dedication or something like that. That's my theory.
I'll just say this. The Unnbriel people have not seen a dragon in centuries.
So?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't say more if you... Unless I'm going to just straight out say it. But just think about that. Think about that.
I don't understand. Okay.
Think about her family.
I mean, Asher could have traveled by boat.
Yeah, I mean, he could have got there without a dragon.
Yeah.
But could Lilith?
I don't know if...
Yes, she could have.
If she even went. I don't think she went, though.
Yeah, who says she had to go?
That's what I was thinking, is Asher was there by himself researching, and then he came home with a baby, and it was like, I don't know. That was my...
I was thinking he could have definitely gone without her.
That was just all I was implying, that it would kind of be impossible. And Lilith would have to take her dragon, because they can't be separated for more than a couple hours without her feeling
I understand.
pain.
Okay.
But
So
anyway,
are you telling us that you know the answer?
I know something. I don't know if it's the answer.
I was already pissed to read the end of this chapter or to read this chapter and be like, wow. So the Venom theory was complete bullshit and all of us were just dumbasses. And then we see the silver hair and now here Brittany is with knowing all of the answers and we're still stuck here being like, here's my theory.
To be fair, we discussed the Venom theory in episode 1. I think it is. And at that time, I hadn't read Onyx Storm.
Well, also to be fair, this is not the last book in this series. And so anything could still happen.
Anything could still happen.
Yeah, I guess.
And we don't know if what people have been told is true. We just know what Violet knows. I know a little bit more about what Violet knows. Anyway, I will say she says, tell me. Did you choose, this is the High Priestess to Violet. Tell me, did you choose this path yourself? She starts to say, my mother, and then she says, I chose my life. And then she says, then it is good we did not complete your dedication. But do you not yearn for temple? Usually the touch creates such longing that you can't help but return. Or perhaps now you favor another god. She glances up at Taryn, ignoring my outburst, and then her eyes slide to Xaden.
Yeah.
Interesting that she looked at Taryn and Xaden.
Yeah, so she's clearly she was intended to be dedicated at some point, or at least the priestess is convinced that she has been touched by Dunne. So there's at least that. Like, they did intend that, and that's where they think that the silver hair is from.
But no, what I was reading that for was mostly because she says perhaps you favor another.
You were pointing out,
favor
the dragons.
Another god, and then she looks at Taryn and Xaden,
right? Which, after we discussed the color theory, would mean Malik. And I don't know about Xaden because maybe there's another random god that we don't know that the Venom are a part of. The purple god.
There is also another theory that the first 6 are the ones who became the gods, and there will be another first 6 in this series,
right? And
they will become gods.
Interesting. I don't like that one as much.
The other thing I'm going to point out is she says the tattoo of Dunne's emblem is inked into her forehead, crinkles as she lifts her silver brows at Xaden and holds out her hand. She must
like
be
Theo?
at least...
Like what?
Say it again, Christy.
Like Theo.
Theophany?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. The silver-haired Venom, who has a unknown tattoo on her forehead. And, literally, Violet is sitting here trying to put it together. And Taryn's like, focus! Analyze later. Focus now.
I was kind of annoyed with Taryn for that. I was like, Taryn, shut up.
Right.
She's thinking. Like, she's putting it together. Hush.
Anyway, so Dane, Xaden, and Violet all have to fight. They brought out 3 fighters, and here's my 6 watch for this. We have 6 pillars with the 6 emblems or tools of war. We have 6 fighters during this challenge. We have 6 stitches that Violet gets. 6.
By the way, I was really impressed with Violet in this chapter.
Yeah, I was like,
she was kicking ass.
She was the one who pretty much won.
Mm-hmm.
When they started sending in Dane, I was like, Dane? They're sending in Dane? And Dane gets his ass handed to him. Poor guy.
He does.
Yeah.
6 people approach Quest Squad on the Hedotus Beach later.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. This whole section is just fucking crazy.
Yeah. And then we also have Weather Watch. Did I thumbs up again?
Yeah, you did this thumbs up.
We also have Weather Watch. Literally, as soon as the challenge starts, it starts raining. And as soon as the challenge ends, it stops. This has happened way too many times where it starts and ends precisely like battle-wise.
I agree. Yeah. And you know what's weird about it? It made me question, is Dunne involved with that? Or is it Violet or is it Dunne?
It's a good question.
I don't know.
And
if it's Dunne, I would think that Lilith would also be involved with Dunne.
It's a good question.
As a weather wielder. I don't know.
But during this fight, the thing that convinces Marlies to yield is lightning striking. And everybody thinks that Violet did it, except Violet.
You don't think that Marlies thinks that Dunne did it?
I think, didn't she say something to her about it? So that basically she thinks that she wielded as well.
She does say there's no magic here. Like, how would you?
How did you do it? I think. I'm pretty sure she says, how did you?
Yeah, because then she says she breaks something with it. And she's like, that stood here for however long until you came along. So.
Yeah.
But I think it's an interesting thing that it might be Dunne, that she could have, because there's got to be some kind of god power associated with these gods, because, I mean,
yeah, I would think so.
If her hair is due to the dedication, how is it turning it silver?
Yeah.
That's magic. Unless they've literally fed her some kind of herb that makes her hair turn silver for the rest of her life. And I'm assuming since everybody else's hair is silver, they've all been dedicated that their hair turned completely silver.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And so it has to be some kind of magic involved.
Yeah.
Even though they don't have magic in the ground.
Christy, do you still think that she's not Lilith and Asher's child? Or you still think that's a possibility?
I think that's still a possibility. There's just several things that don't add up all the way. I mean, Lord knows half the time.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I'm wrong. But it's still a fun theory. I think I'm going to stick with for right now.
Okay. I'm here for it.
I do think it's interesting that I think Mira has black hair or dark brown hair. And Brennan has auburn hair. And what color? We don't know exactly what color her original hair was. But it just doesn't seem to fit.
Violet,
because it goes from, I think it's light brown to silver. It goes from
brown to, yeah.
Yeah. There's just so many different things. And for Asher to be there and some of the things that they say about her, I don't know. It's just odd.
Yeah.
I will say,
I don't know. Brittany seemed to be on your side about it.
Did I?
With the dragon thing. I don't know.
I'm trying not to take any side. Anyway, but the epigraph of chapter 32 says, with such wan coloring in the vegetation, it comes as no surprise that it requires 4 times the amount of indigo to dye even the simplest garment. I can't help but wonder if the colors of our continent are the exception or if the Isles are.
Indigo, blue.
There's a lot of blue.
A lot. I could not stop seeing it after I saw it. I was like, oh my God.
There was something that you pointed out, Christy, about a name.
Oh, yeah, her insult of, what is it, Amarali? Amarali, yeah. And so I was like, is that her real name? And is she, of course, that's when I was like, is she a god? And is she Violet's really, her real mommy? Because then, I can't remember. I think it was you, Lily, that had talked about her being the daughter of a god or something, somehow from the gods.
There's a theory out there that she's a god.
Maybe that's what it was. I just remembered that was, but yeah, I had kind of wondered because something in there didn't really add up. I don't know.
I was going to say, now, if we're going on the color theory, Violet, her name is purple.
That is a good point. I never thought of that.
Right on the nose.
Yeah. And her special dragon looks kind of purple. And the Venom wear purple robes. And we don't have a purple god. So I feel like there's a lot lining up there. And she's already got so much going on with the blues. I feel like she's trying to beat something into our... beat us over the head with it, you know? And she does like just putting it right in front of your face.
She does. She does.
Oh, man.
She usually tries to distract you right after, too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like the medicinal uses of venom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Breezed right over that.
There's another thing I noted, and it was when she realizes that Dunne is there.
Oh, yeah.
She says the eyes of the statue of Dunne turn gold.
Uh-huh.
And that's when she's like, I wish Dunne would stay where she's supposed to.
Yeah.
So we're supposed to assume that that's Dunne, but I was just thinking, what if it was Dunne?
I cannot, in my mind, for the life of me, imagine how Dunne would perch on the statue in a way that she would be able to move her eyes with the statue exactly and it not look fucking weird.
Same.
I just cannot imagine that would work.
And I know Dunne can be invisible or whatever, but she also then appears with Tyrn and Sorrengail later.
Uh-huh.
And nobody felt the dragon moving?
Yeah, I don't think it's Dunne.
I don't either. I'm like, I feel like this is Dunne. And it is funny. Another person noted that Xaden also kind of, what's the word? Not resembles, but exemplifies Dunne. Her symbol is the crossed swords. He's got crossed swords on his back. And twice now in Iron Flame, when he came to rescue her, she says, I look up into the wrath of Dunne in the form of gold-flexed onyx eyes.
Yeah. Oh.
And then last section, we missed it, but when he goes all venom wrathy in Deverelli, she says it was as if Dunne had stepped inside Xaden and taken over him.
Yeah.
The only thing I have to say about what she asks for, the dragon eggs.
12? 12 is a lot.
Asking for one is the audacity.
Yes.
Is just beyond staggering.
Yeah.
But,
asking for one is already an ask.
Yeah. But
you asked for 12?
Then she has the gall to say, you let them get too arrogant.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you think the dragons are going to work with you? LOL.
I don't care if you had them as a baby. And I know this is a movie, but it just reminded me of that guy from Jurassic World where, you got Chris Pratt's character going in and working with the velociraptors. And then he's like, you've got them all tamed. No, he doesn't. They've got a little respect going for each other, but they still try to eat him.
Yeah, yeah.
She reminds me of that guy in this moment. I was not a fan of Marlies in this moment. I know you wrote that you loved her, Christy, but I was like,
I don't like her.
That part I didn't like, but there were other aspects that I do. And who knows, maybe that was a test. Maybe for her, that was a test to see if they would agree.
It did bring up the question for me also because Sorrengail goes to almost burn her and Xaden's like, I can understand if you want to, but could you maybe pick a guard or something?
Are they talking again?
Well, he can talk to her, but not in their mind.
Well, yeah, but
it
just meant, are they on good terms?
Can the dragons breathe fire without their magic?
I don't know. Or maybe he was just bluffing.
Because, she backs off after he says this.
She could have eaten him or eaten her.
Yeah.
So maybe he was just bluffing.
All right. So once they were done with all that, they do head to Hedotus, which is the Creamstone capital. And Cream
Can we end on a fucking crazy note?
Cream remind you of any other, scribes?
Oh, yeah.
Hedotus.
The god of wisdom.
But yeah, so they're met on the beach by these 6 people. And one of them is Ferris, who introduced himself as one of the leaders of Hedotus. And his family. Here's my lovely wife. And Garrick's like, oh shit.
Oh my god. I can't believe they just dropped that on us like no big deal. She goes, Xaden? ? And I was like, no fucking way.
Mom?
No fucking way. I was just about to say, when we were talking about the crossed swords, that Xaden reminds me of Zuko, the blue spirit. I don't know if you remember.
Yes.
But even better that Mom just shows up.
I saw
Runaway
this,
Mom.
Whatchamacallit. I can't remember. It wasn't a meme, but it was like, with Zuko in charge, he should have put Azula or his dad and said, you can only get your honor back if you go arrest the blue spirit.
Very nice.
Well, I feel like the big thing with this that really stood out to me was that Indarna wants to leave. She does not want to stay there.
Yeah.
And I feel like if she wants to leave,
If she's uncomfortable,
you need to leave. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a port city without a port.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit that doesn't add up. And that's why I was like, I think it's one of those because they're known for what? Peace and wisdom, which means if they name themselves that, then they're not that way. Then they're like
there's
war
definitely
and idiocy.
Problems. Yeah.
Also, we do know that the scribes are the beating heart of the enemy.
Yep.
And this is a scribe-like island.
My grandma used to say that she's always smiling because people never question you if you always smile. And when he walked up and he was like very friendly and very welcoming, I was like, I don't like him.
Stepford.
I do not like him.
It was like Stepford.
Yeah, that would freak me out.
I will also say that they do wear pale green for
Like
the
dragons.
green dragons.
Yep.
And there's something else I want to say, but I don't want to ruin it for you. But you almost caught it. You almost caught it, and you were talking about it, and I wanted you to talk about it, but you didn't. Sorry.
Which one of us?
Lily.
Oh no.
There is also a sparkling red unknown gem on the top of Ferris's cane.
Yeah.
So there's another gem watch for us. What did y'all think about these purple eyes?
My first thought was the Game of Thrones characters. Dany, her family is supposed to have purple eyes. They're rare, but she has purple eyes. I don't know. I think that would freak me the fuck out if I walked up to someone and they had pale blue eyes that looked purple. I would be like, ooh, that's creepy.
It's common here in this island.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder, why doesn't Talia have purple eyes? Does that mean she's not
from here?
From here?
She's not from there.
No, she's a mail order bride. Just saying. And who has pale eyes like that? Should we be thinking of someone who might have pale eyes like that? I don't know.
She has dark brown eyes.
I was just talking about any character could have pale blue eyes.
Oh, you mean
like
the
him.
purple?
Yeah, purple.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, wait a minute. Her eyes aren't pale. They're dark brown.
I meant like his eyes. Are there any other characters like that is what I was wondering. But any other thoughts?
After the lightning thing, when they go back, Mira freaks out about, did you wield? Did you wield? And she's like searching her face and eyes. Kind of gives that worry.
Yeah, I did notice that, but I'm surprised she even thought that of her. I don't understand why she would think that of Violet.
I don't think she's thinking too straight right now. I think she's in her feelings. And
yeah,
I think she's going off whatever her grandmother told her.
Yeah. Maybe Asher also went looking for a cure when Lilith wielded. And maybe he was going to dedicate Violet as a way to get it cured.
Maybe he did cure her.
Maybe he did. Because she seemed to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
When she died, she didn't revert to, having distended veins or anything.
Yeah. So Asher must have found the cure. He must have. I'm telling you, those weird little passages he was writing about ferns and herbs. I'm telling you, he knows what's up.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. I wrote the exact same passage down.
Oh, good. Yeah. Okay, well, let's call it here. Let's discuss more later. We hope that everyone enjoyed this week's episode, and we hope you join us for next week's. We'll be discussing Onyx Storm chapters 34 through 37. New episodes drop each week, and don't forget to check out last season's discussion on the Zodiac Academy.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and follow us on social media. That like and follow are super important for us to continue to bring you new episodes each week, so please, please, please do so. You can also support us by joining us on Patreon. Thank you for listening to the Midnight Readers podcast. We'll see you next week.
Happy reading, listeners. Don't stay up too late.